Alright guys, tonight we are making 277 Wolverine brass. And this is what a 277 Wolverine brass case looks like. This is a 223 and this is a 300 blackout. So in comparison, let's see. Alright, there it goes. You can see 223 is the longest, 277 Wolverine is in the middle, and 300 blackout is on the bottom, or on the right, my right. So you can see that the 223 will fit right into the 277 Wolverine, and the 277 Wolverine will fit right into the 300 blackout. So that's what we are going to be making tonight, is a 277 Wolverine brass. So the way you do 277 Wolverine brass is you take and you cut right at the bottom of the neck above the shoulder. So right where the neck meets the shoulder, that's where you cut it, instead of the blackout where you cut it right at the bottom of the shoulder. So yeah, we're going to be making some of that tonight. And to do that, we have this set up, or I have this set up over here. I'll zoom in so you guys can see. So you can see I have a little basket on the left, and that's full of the 223 uncut. And then right here, you can see I got this little vise right here with a wood block that is attached to the Harbor Freight saw. And I have two screws going through the saw through this metal pan. The metal pan is just to catch the brass and to kind of catch some of the brass dust. It's kind of messy to do this inside, and normally I would do it outside, but it's cold out in my garage and it's messy in the garage. So I have good light here, so I thought it'd be good to record inside. So then we have our Harbor Freight Drill Master Mini Cutoff Saw. It's a little chop saw, and here you can see I've got this jig. You can see one of the pieces is already cut. But the cool thing about this jig, I was going to build my own jig, but I found these for, it was like 35 bucks or something. And there's actually I think there's a spring with a little ball bearing detent, and so it kind of holds the brass in place. And so there's the piece inside that you're cutting, and then there's the one that's pushing it to line it up right. You can see there's a screw right here, and that's where you can adjust. You loosen that and you loosen that screw, and you can slide this left to right to set it up to cut more, like if you're cutting 300 blackout, or cut less if you're cutting the 277 Wolverine. So I'll go ahead and show you how it goes. So we take this piece of brass right here and we push it in, and it kind of ejects the one that's done, and then gets the other one nice and ready. And you can see that it holds that in pretty good, so it doesn't back out. So once you get it set up with your two set screws, you can do some pretty even cuts. And so so that's my little setup. And of course I got my safety glasses, because sometimes when you are cutting brass with these little Harbor Freight mini cutoff saws, these pieces go flying. So I don't want any of that in my eyes. So I have my safety glasses. So we will, I'll go ahead and show you how it goes. So the way the saw works, you just turn it on. And it's pretty loud for a little saw. But after you have it on, then there's this little button you have to push, and what that does is line it up so it allows you to come down all the way. And you can see that it's cutting it right at the bottom of the neck, top of the shoulder. And that's where we want it. So I'll go ahead and cut a bunch. I've already cut a bunch, but I'll cut more. And I'll show you. It's a pretty fast process with this jig. This jig is worth the money alone, just in time savings, and saving your brass because you don't cut too short or too long, whatever. So I'll put a link in the description about the jig, where I got it, and I'll have a link to it so you guys can, if you need to make 277 Wolverine brass, then the jig is the way to go. Now I will say the Starline brass has started making 277 Wolverine brass, so you can get that pretty cheap. But you guys know me, and I like to do a lot of stuff just from scratch or making my own stuff. So I'm gonna do it just because I have a ton of 223 brass. 223 brass seems like it multiplies like rabbits in my brass buckets. Somehow I keep getting more and more and more, and I don't buy it. So I guess I go shooting with a lot of guys who don't bother to pick up 223 brass, and so I gain a lot that way. So this is so this is the process. I just take this, cut it, and then I run it through the sizing die, and I'll show you that in a little bit. Okay guys, so I'm done cutting a bunch of brass, and I'll show you what it looks like when it's cut. So I just cut right at that bottom of the neck, top of the shoulder, and does a pretty good job cutting it pretty even, so that'll make trimming a lot easier after we size it and form the brass. So we'll go ahead and lube the brass and then run it through the sizer die. Now, as a side note, some people like to do a little chamfer and deburr on this brass right after you cut it. I'm not gonna do it because I don't think it needs it. Well, for me, it doesn't need it. So I'll go ahead and do it without it, and show you the process of that. Okay, so now I'm gonna lube this brass up. I'm just going to use some of these little Harbor Freight blue gloves, the nitro gloves, and lube them up my fast way so you don't have to wait for the spray lube to dry. So I'm just going to use some of this Hornady Unique Case Lube. Get a bunch on my hands. And I just put a bunch on the gloves, and I rub it like this. Then, alright, so rub it, put it in. Basically, I'm using my gloved hands as a lube pad, and it's a lot faster than rolling them on a lube pad. Okay, so I'm just going to use that Hornady die, sizing die, and run them through. After the brass is all cut and sized, then I like to take that lube off. And for me, one of the fastest ways is just take a towel. Just kind of swish it around a bit. Then after most of the lube is off, then I get ready to trim the brass. For trimming the brass, I'm using this Giraud power trimmer. The cool thing about the Giraud is that it trims the brass, it chamfers it, and it deburrs it all in one step. And that is actually really nice. This one's already set up for trimming, so just turn it on. You can see that it's trimmed, chamfered, and deburred. I'm not going to show trimming the whole thing because that'll be boring, but I'll measure some real fast, make sure they're trimming to the right length. This is 1.532, 1.532, 1.533, 1.532, 1.532. So as you can see, it's trimming it real, actually pretty consistent for how fast it does. 1.532, 1.532. As you can see, the brass is all trimmed, chamfered, deburred, sized. It's just ready to be primed and loaded now. So that is how I make my 277 Wolverine brass.